Welcome back. He has been put into a CT scan. All afternoon, the usual line of tourists from around the world had descended into the cramped, rock cut tomb some 26 feet underground to pay their respects. They gazed at the murals on the walls of the burial chamber and peered at Tut's gilded face. Gilded is the golden face, and as you saw in that mask of gold, it is made of gold and it is made of lapis lazuli and all those kind of things. So everybody wanted to see that. So they gazed at the murals. Murals are the works of art on the wall. They might be painted, or they might be pasted, or they might be made in clay or mud. That is a mural. And they gazed at the murals on the walls of the burial chamber and peered at Tut's gilded face. The most striking feature of his mummy-shaped outer coffin lid, so that face that I showed you yesterday in the video, that is the most famous, you can say, sarcophagus in the world. There is nothing which is equal to that. And when I saw that lying in the Cairo Museum, I can never forget it. I was looking for pictures yesterday when I was making that PPT, and I thought I'm going to find I'm going to find that picture also. And I kept looking and going back and forth, and I suddenly realized that no, they never allowed cameras inside. You could not click a picture of the museum inside. Only by special permission you can make a movie. So those channels like BBC and all, they can get in, but we couldn't take the camera. But I remember the sarcophagus of King Tut in every little detail. It had such an impression on me, and it's been so many years. I went in 2006 December, and still I remember that. And it is beautiful. It is actually beautiful and mind-blowing when you look at it. So everybody has the same kind of a feeling when they look at that face mask, which is made of gold and which is on the outer lid of the coffin. Some visitors read from the guidebooks in a whisper. Others stood silently, perhaps pondering Tut's untimely death in his late teens, or wondering with a shiver if the pharaoh's curse, death or misfortune falling upon those who disturbed him, was really true. And I remember walking in that room where that sarcophagus is lying. I saw the mummy in a separate place, and it is temperature controlled, and it has very limited lighting, which is required only for the artifacts. And people go around looking at the artifacts which are covered by glass. You cannot touch them. You can just approach them, and there are those written things over there which tell you about the artifact. So nobody talks, nobody whispers. People just go look at it quietly and spend time over there. They don't hurry you. They don't tell you to finish it quickly unless it is closing time for the museum. So you can spend as much time as you want, and you can go through the details. Nobody pushes you. And just like the writer says out here, that some were reading from the guidebooks, and some were looking at it, and some were thinking about what kind of life he had, and some were thinking about maybe the curse. It is a story that every tomb has a curse, so you should not open it. Generally, they would propagate such stories so that people would not open the tomb and take the treasures out. So they used to weave a lot of stories around it, and people would be frightened. And like you and I, we wouldn't like to go and meddle with tombs to find treasures, because we might, think that okay, it might be cursed and there might be a problem. The actual fact was that the Egyptians used to do a little bit of chemical warfare. They would, or biological warfare, they would put dried parasite into the tombs, and these parasites would give off diseases. So when the tombs were opened, of course they would be like there for a long time. So as it is, that parasite mixture would be dry, and those parasites they used to then spread into the air when the tombs were opened. And that spreading into the air would lead to infections. So people who would open tombs would generally be infected by some infectious disease, and most of them who would have opened it together would have the same symptoms. So the general public started thinking that tombs had a curse on them. And This is what the fact was, that disease used to be spread. It was just a deterrent so that people would not open the tomb. So he was, death or misfortune falling upon those who disturbed him was really true. The mummy is in very bad condition because of what Carter did in the 1920s. When he discovered it, he couldn't take it out, so he had to literally chop it into pieces to bring it out. So it was in a very bad condition. Said Zahi Hafez, Secretary of General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, as he leaned over the body for a long first look. So this is the first time they're looking at the body after 1922, and they realize that it is badly mutilated because it is in a bad condition as it was taken out from there and however it was brought to them. Carter, Howard Carter, that is, was the British archaeologist who in 1922 discovered Tut's tomb after years of futile searching. Futile is useless searching. He had been searching for a long time before he discovered the tomb. Its contents, though hastily ransacked in antiquity, was surprisingly complete. So whatever was inside the tomb and next to the coffin, it was a huge surprise that they didn't run away with it, they didn't sell it, and they didn't raid the tomb. They catalogued everything and then they put everything. Now if you go to Cairo Museum, it is actually mind-blowing. The sarcophagus of King Tut, which contained the mummy, it was contained in 3 big boxes. There were 3 huge boxes. One box, the biggest one, which was the one outside, was as big as a room. Then it had another box inside, it had another box inside. So the one absolutely inside was the one which contained his body and the mummy and everything. And all the other boxes contained treasures which were buried with him. You can see these when you go over there, and you are so surprised when you look at it and you think, okay, they have done it. An entire carriage was put in for his transportation after his death. They thought that he would be requiring it, so they put that also inside. And then grain, honey, clothes and slippers and jewelry and those things for daily ablutions, everything was put into it, and it took a lot of space. So they had created box after box after box. It was like Pandora's box. You open and then you have more things and you have more things in it. That is how they had buried him. And all these things are nicely catalogued and lying over there in the museum. So I'll close down the audio here and the video as well. And if there are any problems, you can please ask me or WhatsApp me the questions. Thank you.